Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Danny Show. Once again, today I have a very special guest. His name is Michael Roach. Michael Roach is a prominent figure in the world of basketball, podcasting, and content creation, renowned for his in-depth analysis, engaging discussions, and passionate coverage for the sport. With a dedicated following, Roach has carved out a niche for himself in the digital landscape, providing fans with insightful commentary, interviews with players, and behind-the-scenes insights into the basketball world. Through his podcasts, videos, and social media presence, he offers a unique perspective on the game, exploring its intricacies, trends, and the stories that shape the sport itself. Michael Roach's commitment to delivering high quality content and fostering meaningful conversations has made him a respected voice among basketball enthusiasts worldwide. Currently, he works as a podcaster slash content creator for OXP Media and as a television broadcast assistant for the Toronto Raptors. In these roles, he led podcast preparations, conducted guest research, planned sound effects, and ensured a comfortable studio environment. He has also obtained a business administration degree from Sheridan College in 2012, and now Mr. Michael Roach joins me live. How are you doing, Michael?
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. That's a hell of an intro.
Thank you. I appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
No worries, no worries. My pleasure. My first question to start this interview would be, what inspired you to start your basketball podcast and ultimately become a content creator in the basketball community?
Um, I grew up playing the sport.
Right.
I grew up playing basketball. My brother played basketball as well, and he at one point, my older brother was one of the top rated players in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of followed suit. I played all throughout high school, and then when I was done, I coached for about 12 years, but my coaching went back to when I was in high school too. I started coaching at maybe 14 or 15 years old.
Right.
And, I always knew that I wanted to work in
Hmm.
sports, doing something with basketball.
Right.
Never really had a desire to play in the NBA for any strange reason, but I knew I wanted to work in the field of basketball and the NBA. So, I mean, I went to school to get a business background because I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do in sports. I just know I wanted to have a business background that I can kind of merge with the sports together, right? And have a
Right.
bit of both.
That's good.
And so, I mean, I ended up getting an internship at Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing radio editing and doing interviews as a reporter, as an intern for The Fan.
Right.
So I went there for just over a year. I got some reps in. I got really good with learning how to chop up audio and cut up interviews and stuff. So they get played on the radio and all that kind of stuff. And then, some days they had um, the studio would be open. So me and a couple of the other interns would go in there and, kind of do our own podcast. And it kind of started that way, like
Mhm.
I never really thought about it at one point, but it kind of just came naturally.
Well, that's beautiful to hear. So I guess through the experience in school and kind of getting that internship was the first kind of step into the door of all this content creation.
Yeah, man, that was the first step. Being an intern at Sportsnet 590 The Fan kind of really opened my eyes to a lot of different things that I could possibly do, you know.
That's amazing. That's amazing to hear. So now that you've been in this, space for quite some time, what have been some of your like most memorable moments as a podcaster or content creator, as they say?
Um, you know what? It's when you create your own content, it's like every time you go on the microphone, it's something different, you know.
Right, right.
Some of the really good times I've had is just having my own show, talking to different guests.
Hmm.
I had a show that I did called Hustle Play with Chris Boucher, and we had a bunch of different guests on there. That was really fun and just getting to know a lot of people's stories, right?
Right.
One thing that was great too is the Raptors championship run,
Yeah, that
which
was
is
amazing.
really cool, Um, and the All-Star game in Toronto was amazing. Like
Sure.
those are some of the things that I think of off
Hmm.
the top. Like the
Right.
championship run was amazing, like being in the building, um, seeing them get past Philly, with that shot at the end, being in the building, and when Kawhi Leonard made that shot, and like
Yeah,
seeing being in the building on the court after they beat the Bucks, being there, watching them play the Warriors, like it was absolutely crazy,
yeah,
crazy
for sure it
moments. But
is. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the most memorable moments for me will probably be those that I just mentioned, but also I kind of took on a challenge to want to be on the mic solo
Okay.
because I used to do a lot of interviews. Like I used to have a friend of mine named Brandon Graham. We had started podcasting together. We had a show called the Six Man Podcast like years ago.
Okay.
And it was always him and I, and we would have a guest all the time and stuff like that. But then I figured, if I really want to be able to be amongst the best, I got to be able to take a challenge to do things solo. So I want to be able to hold my own, whether it be 20-minute show, 30-minute show, 40-minute show, with me just being on the mic by myself to so that I
Right.
can show people that I can hold my own space with just myself and information for whatever the time period is, right? So
Hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of different things that I can think on that were memorable, but I mean, it keeps coming. Like memorable stuff happens all the time in this business because it's unpredictable, and a bunch of
Sure.
different things and things you don't expect just happen all the time.
I understand, man. So, like you said, it just every day is something new. I think you just build more memorable memories as they come on. Like it's just part of the process, and you go and you do different things, and like you said, like the Raptors championship run, I'll never forget that. You know, and
What inspired you to start this podcast?
what inspired me to start this podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, Michael, I can tell you this, and I'll tell all my viewers, I started this podcast to because I love it. I honestly, truly love just talking to different people and seeing their different perspectives. And ever since I was a child, this my dream was to become like a sports journalist, and be on the news desk behind like be behind a news desk on like Sportsnet or TSN. That was always the dream. And I think sports is a beautiful thing to witness, whether that be basketball, soccer, baseball, or anything. And honestly, it brings people closer together, and it's a beautiful thing to witness. And it also allows me to talk to many professionals like yourself and many other amazing people that have been on my podcast. I started this thinking like it won't pan out the way I expected it, but now I'm doing it consistently, and it's working out pretty greatly in a way that I didn't even realize that every single week I have a guest like already lined up. I have guests lined up till like next month, months from
That's
now
great.
even. So that's great to hear. But I didn't know when I started it would be like this. I thought it would be here's an episode, like a one episode per month. I didn't know it would be like a weekly thing that people
Mm.
would expect me to do. But I guess I have so much passion and love for it that it kind of comes back to me in some shape or form. So I'm grateful for it. But I started this podcast basically to just follow my dreams. I went to school for journalism, but I didn't pursue it. I'm in digital marketing now, but I thought doing this on the side would be still a really cool way to explore my, two passions, basically my journalism passion and my marketing passion.
Which is good because you can do both, you know.
Right.
You can do
Right.
both. Like last season, I was working. I was downtown at Scotiabank Arena,
Cool.
and I was leaving the arena. We were playing Dallas, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was walking out arena, and I happened to be beside Mark Cuban, and he was going to the team bus, right?
Nice. Okay.
And I was talking to him for a second, and he was just giving me some advice. And his one piece of advice that he gave me was, if you're going to do something that you love, right? Because
For sure.
if you do something that you love, unlike other things, there's a lot less likely chance that you'll give up to doing it,
Exactly.
right? Because
Exactly.
at least in the beginning, it may not be like this forever, but at least in the beginning and for a period of time, you won't necessarily do it for money.
No,
right?
no.
You'll do it because you love it. Like if you don't love something, if you're going to do it, you're going to want to do it for money.
Right.
You're not going to want to do it
I
for
know.
free,
I know.
right? But at least if you're going to be doing something that you love, you'll do it for free, and then you'll build upon your skills until the point where it happens to turn into money for you.
That's kind of what I'm planning, like expecting this to happen as well. Like I'm hoping in the future I get my own show on like on TV. That would be really cool. But
I would encourage you to just keep building your own show.
something like right,
Sometimes you don't need the middleman all the time anymore. And
right.
the way that we have the internet right now,
Mm-hmm.
trust me, build your own platform. You don't even have to necessarily look for networks right now,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
It's true.
because when I've trust me, I've working behind the scenes and working for Yahoo and stuff like that. When you work for networks, there's do's and don'ts. You can't say exactly
Oh,
necessarily
right.
everything that you want
Exactly.
to say. So
Exactly.
it all depends on your ideas too, right? Like
That's true.
sometimes when you get to these companies, they can limit you to
Mm-hmm.
what you can really put out there, right?
Right.
So I would encourage you, like at least in the beginning, right? I'm not telling you not to do it, but at
Sure.
least in the beginning,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you have your ideas, create your own network, create your own show,
Mm-hmm. Right. I
and do as
totally,
much as you can do that way first,
yeah.
at least. You can do whatever you like to do if that's your desire. Not saying it won't work. It can work for you. It definitely
Mm-hmm.
can.
Right.
But do as much as you can do without a middleman if you can.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Michael. Like, well said. I honestly didn't think of that. Like you go on this network and you're like, oh, like I can't say a few things that I really want to, right? You have to go off a
Mm-hmm.
script, you have to go off a teleprompter or something. But having this space to just to someone, just having a natural, casual conversation is amazing because it breaks those boundaries, like you said.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, enough about our personal experiences and the journalism industry. Let's head on to the main focus of today, which is the Toronto Raptors. Um,
Mm.
so how are you feeling about the Raptors after All-Star break has, officially ended? How do you feel coming into the second half of the season? The tank is real, but what do we expect in the off season?
I mean, there's no point in looking at winning at this point. The Raptors are not
Yeah,
going to
for
do
sure.
anything in regards to winning in the postseason this
Right.
season.
Right.
It's all going to be a developmental year
For sure.
for the
Yeah,
Raptors going into the postseason. Emmanuel quickly got to lock him up with a contract.
for sure.
Barrett's under contract. Barnes is still there as well. Aside from those three, I'm really not sure what's going to happen, to be completely
Mm.
honest with you. I mean,
Same.
Grady Dick is a guy that they want to develop to be a good shooter for them.
Right.
He'll probably still be around. But aside from really those young guys, like, I don't know pretty much what's going to happen at this point. I mean, you have Jakob Pertl, who's there. Will they look to move him? Possibly.
Possibly,
Right?
possibly he'll be
They
moved.
might, yeah, they might look to move him. Bruce Brown is still here. They might look to move him. Chris Boucher, he'll be on an expiring deal after the season. They might keep him. They might look
Yeah,
to move him. I
I
mean,
think they'll
there's a
resign him.
lot of things. Yeah, there's a lot of things up in the air right now.
Yeah, a
The
lot of
only thing
different
I
names.
know is, yeah, the only thing I know is that you have a core of Quickly, Barrett, and Barnes,
Yeah, that's the
and
key.
that's the key.
That's the key right now.
You
And
know, and
yeah, you were gonna say
I mean, no, I mean, like you have a few pieces there, like Abaji, who just came from
right,
Utah.
and
I'm
Kelly
sure they're
Olynyk,
going to take a very close look at him.
hmm
Olenek is there,
right,
right?
Olynyk,
Which I think he's a nice piece, most likely to come off your bench if he's still here by next
possibly
season.
yes.
Jordan Wara is a nice piece to come off your bench too.
Hmm.
So they have a few good bench pieces right now, better than they did at the beginning of the season. You have your core three, but with that being said, there's still some pretty heavy lifting that they
Oh
have to
yeah,
do
for sure, for sure.
in the off season.
I know, and I think, and and this is a really good question to ask you because it's been lingering in my mind ever since these trades have happened with Utah and New York. Um,
Mhm.
did Masai rush to make these trades happen in order for us to just clinch that playoff berth? Do you think that was his plan, or do you think it was just a way for him to be like, okay, I have this, foundation to go off of in the off season, and I have all these picks and I have all these salary cap. Was that his plan, or was it just the plan to just go into the playoffs this season?
I think his plan was to try to get into the playoffs at the beginning of the season,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like that was what it was at the beginning of the season, which is why they went out and got a Dennis Schroeder,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
I don't know why they lost him, but
yeah, they went out because there's no use for him now at this point. Dennis
that's
Schroeder
true.
came into the season um, with the impression that he could be like a probable starter
Yeah, he was a
this
starter.
year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 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 for sure.
So with that being said, the tank is real, like you mentioned. Like
Yeah,
they're
right.
not winning anything this season,
No, they're not.
and you just brought in quickly from New York.
Yeah.
So now you went into going to getting a young guy quickly. You're
Mhm.
losing, and you're bringing Schroeder off the bench. That's not going to be ideal for him, right?
No, it's not.
And before he gets completely disgruntled, just trade him.
Right.
Just trade him away, right?
Right.
Um, I don't. Masai didn't rush at all.
Hmm.
Um, that's why it took so long to move these guys. I mean, these guys were on expiring deals, right?
They were
You
on
had
this.
Siakam and you had OG Ananobi.
Right.
I think they should have been traded earlier. You probably would have gotten more. But
Right.
now you get squeezed a little bit because your back's against the wall, right?
Hmm.
If you don't take if you don't take a deal that's on the table that's somewhat decent, if the other team walks away, you're gonna end up having OG Ananobi walk for nothing,
That's true.
right? In the
That
off
is
season,
true.
you're gonna have Siakam walk for nothing
That is
in
true.
the off season.
That is
I've
true.
heard reports already that OG Ananobi declined an extension, so he wasn't willing to resign anyway. So he was gonna leave.
Yeah.
So you gotta take what you can get.
Yeah,
And if you
exactly.
ask me, to me, the Raptors got lucky. The Raptors got lucky. They got Barrett and quickly
They got
for
lucky.
OG
Yeah,
Ananobi.
they
They
did.
got very lucky. They just turned one starter into two.
Exactly.
Okay. And it's not
Yeah.
like these guys don't have potential and upside.
Yeah.
These guys both have potential and
For
upside. They're
sure they
both
do.
very young still. RJ Barrett's strong, heavy left handed guy, can shoot it outside from a little bit. He's good with his on ball defense. A lot of improvement to be had if you're RJ Barrett. Emmanuel quickly, I mean, he's quick. He can shoot the ball. He's a lot like Tyrese Maxey, a guy who we played with in college. Like he has that
Hmm.
type of game. When these guys make any type of improvement, they greatly improve the quality of your team,
Oh yeah, for sure
right?
they do. Yeah, yeah.
Along with an all-star you already have now in Scotty Barnes, right?
Yeah,
So the
honestly.
Raptors have some really good upside. You have a few draft picks here. Hopefully they can get the one back that they traded to
Right.
the Spurs. Hopefully they can get that pick back
Hmm.
because it's top, I think 6 or 7 protected, right?
Top six or
But
seven.
I hope, yeah. But they also have a few late first round picks,
Yeah,
and
they do.
if they can hit, if they can hit on those picks, if they don't trade them, if they can hit on those picks, it could get interesting. We'll
It
see.
could get interesting. It really could get interesting. I think, like you said, it's a time that we're all still processing. It's a developmental phase for the franchise, for this team. Um, we have the core that we need in Quickly, Barrett, and Barnes. Quickly and Barrett, I think we definitely sniped the Knicks in the trade for these two players because getting two starters for just one OG Anunoby and like two bench warmers and Flynn and Achua, like that's insane. I didn't know we would
Yeah.
get Quickly
You
and
know,
Barrett.
and
When I
it's
saw,
good for New York too. It worked out both
oh, it
ways because
worked out
their
both
defense has
ways
shot up to the top of the league,
for
and
sure.
he's been very solid since he's been there. It's one of those deals that just happens to work for both sides.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and OG was a type was a guy that the Knicks were targeting for many years, and they finally got him, and he fits well into their system. And I'm happy that both sides won the trade. I feel like the Raptors, though, and you can tell me your perspective on this, kind of lost in the Pacers trade with Siakam. I feel like we should have got at least one Obi Toppin or one center to complement, you know, a team that really needed one. But instead, we did go and get Olynyk from the Jazz to substitute, our lack in centers. But I feel like the Raptors should have gotten a center in the Pacers deal. How do you feel about the Pacers deal?
No, I mean you're right. I'm sure they tried to,
Yeah, for
right?
sure they did. Yeah.
Like they definitely tried to, I'm sure. But it's like I mentioned, when your back is against the wall, if you don't take that deal and there's no other deal that's better out there, now
Right.
you're stuck. Now
I
you're
think that was the
stuck, right?
only deal, Michael. I think that was the only deal on the table for them.
Yeah, I mean, you got Bruce Brown, Noira, and you got 3 first round picks, right?
And Kira Lewis too.
And well, Kier Lewis came from the Pelicans
Yeah, Pelicans, yeah, and that
yeah,
three team trade, yeah.
right. And then he gets sent over to Utah as well,
Right.
right? So, I mean, they if they can turn those picks into something,
Right,
right?
yeah.
I'm interested to see what they do with those.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how these picks kind of shape up to be in the draft. Are they going to trade them? Are they going to keep them? I think
Mm-hmm.
they're going to keep them. That's what my predictions are. I think if they keep
Same.
them and then they select a few good young stars, I don't care if they're coming off the bench. We have a good core. I think just we need young guys coming off the bench. We can't have all these old
Yeah.
veterans anymore. They're
You
not
know, a
going to
lot
do
of
us any
people are talking
favors.
about it's going to be a weak draft, right?
They
That's what
are.
a lot of
They
people
are.
are saying.
Yeah, a
But
lot of people.
they might say it's a weak draft, but there's always gems in there.
There's
There's
always gems.
always
Yeah.
gems in there,
There's always
right? If
gems. Like there's a lot of NBA superstars, Michael, that just have been late round, second round picks, and they've just been all stars like Isaiah Thomas, you know,
who was your MVP the last couple of years?
the MVP,
Last couple of years, Jokic,
right? Jokic. And he was a late round drafter.
second second round pick.
Yeah, second round pick.
You
So
know,
you don't know what's gonna happen. People thought OG wasn't gonna be a good player. People thought Scotty Barnes when I watched the draft and we selected Scotty Barnes, people were devastated that we picked Scotty Barnes because we wanted Jalen Suggs in
right,
replacement of
right.
him. But where's
Hmm.
Jalen Suggs? He's a good player. I'm not saying he's terrible, but he's not an all-star.
Yeah, exactly.
Scotty Barnes was the best player in that draft that we got, arguably.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Arguably.
Arguably, yeah,
Yeah.
100%,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so we were lucky that we got Scotty Barnes, and I didn't know he was gonna be like this all-star player because in college, like he was okay, he was average, but I didn't know he's gonna be like this. So he kind of came out of
Same.
nowhere and kind of
Yeah,
took
I
us
I
by
didn't think he'd be
surprise.
an all star this fast.
Yeah, I didn't know he would be an all-star this fast either, but
Yeah,
he did surprise us, and there's gonna be a lot of surprises. So I hope those draft picks that the Raptors have turn into surprises like Scotty Barnes. Not per se being all-star, that would be really cool if we have a couple more, but if they
like
even come
good,
off the
solid
bench and
rotation
just
players.
solid rotation players, yeah, that would be
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
So now that we've talked about the team and whatnot, do you feel like the Raptors are gonna just trade all these veterans away and just get young players? Is that kind of the conclusion we have?
Yeah, like I think they'll go more the route of some young players, but I do think they're going to hold on to maybe one or two of those veterans. You want
Yeah,
to
for
hold on
sure.
to a couple of those veterans just to make sure that the young guys on the team have somebody to talk to, a mentor. You don't want to always do it with your coaches. You want to sometimes do it with a guy who's on the floor with you, even though he may not play a lot, but he's older and has that experience, right?
Yeah, for
Because
sure. Yeah.
he can probably guide you in a way that the coaches can't to a certain degree, which is why like you wanted a Thaddeus Young on your bench. It's
Yeah.
why, you know what I mean? It's because it's key, right? It's
It
why
is.
you wanted a Udonis Haslam in
Mhm,
Miami for so long because it
for sure.
makes a difference, right? So
Hmm.
I'm sure they'll hang on to maybe one or two veterans, but not more than that. I think probably
Yeah.
two like key older veterans they'll hold on to that
Hmm.
still can play and provide a spark at some point if they need it.
Hmm.
Probably not, but if
Hmm.
they need it at whenever they get called upon, But yeah, I think it's mostly just going to be looking to fill out that roster with young, good young veterans as well,
for sure.
as much as young pieces, right?
Exactly. Like Michael, I even forgot to mention, but when the Raptors made all those moves, our entire team was filled with guards, like a flat line, just so many guards out there, no centers. Like that's why we played so much small
Yeah.
ball. And Pirtle was injured, right? And we didn't have no
Hmm.
Olynyk. So Boucher, who's not like supposedly our center, is not a center. He's a power forward.
He's not a center.
Yeah.
No.
So we had no center on the floor and we had four guards. Like that's just too much. Like I'm really, really hoping the Raptors just get a center. Like bring back Jonas Valanciunas, bring back at least Bismack Biyombo or someone just to fill in that position. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
just even a veteran center, I think would help this team out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. But
Mhm.
remember, you said they would help the team. The tank is real. We don't want help right now.
Not help right now. I'm saying in the off season though.
In the off season, no, I think in the off season you got to look for a young big. You got
Young.
to look for a young
Okay.
big that is going to be able to grow with these guys, right? Because
Okay.
these guys like Barnes and Quickly and Barrett and these guys, they're not in their prime yet.
No, they're
So
not.
you don't necessarily want to bring in a big that's in their prime that is going to be out of his prime when these guys hit their prime.
Exactly, right? That's
You know what
that's
I mean? You
that's
want to
the
try to get them
timeline, right?
all right. You
Yeah,
want to try to get them to all peak as
exactly.
close as possible to each other, right? Now,
Right.
who that big is, I don't know.
I
I
don't know
really don't
either.
know.
Yeah, I don't know
But
either.
from what I'm seeing, it looks like the Raptors are trying to clean up cap space
They are.
so that if somebody becomes available, they're going to be able to throw the money at them, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think a young big, maybe even in the draft they select a big. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
There's that guy, Zach Edey, who I think is in the draft this year.
Yeah,
I think that
he
would be
is.
a great piece for us to have.
I
He's
think he'd be
young,
a good piece.
versatile, and
7'4", he's huge.
he's huge, and he's
Um,
well Canadian, and the Raptors are loving Team Canada because they're getting Olynyk, Barrett, and we have Boucher, so we might as well get
yeah,
more Canadian players on the team.
yeah, man, I agreed. If they can get Edie with a late first or an
That's a
early
win.
second,
Yeah,
you know,
things are gonna look good.
yeah, agreed.
So Michael, second last question before we wrap things up. What kind of challenges have you faced kind of building and growing your basketball podcast and, just content creation?
All the challenges, to be honest, are kind of just internal, having the belief that you can actually do what you think you can. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Right,
With the internet at this point and the amount of resources that we have, it's really just self belief. You just have to make sure that you understand and know that you can be successful if you believe in yourself. I know it sounds cliche,
right.
but it doesn't cost money to reach out to people.
It
It
doesn't.
doesn't cost money to get on that microphone and make a show. You know
Right.
what I mean? None of that stuff costs money. So it's all about the belief in yourself that's mostly the challenge, right?
Hmm.
And get out there and make yourself seen. You know what I mean? Get to games, get to high school games, get to college games, go to meetings or go to different stuff where you can network. You know,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
that is, I wouldn't say that's necessarily challenging, but just making sure you do it's the challenging part. Like 50% is just being there. I remember when I started working for the Raptors, I had a boss. His name was Dan Gladman. He was the producer. He said 50% is just being there. You
Right.
have
It
to make
is.
sure you're in a place to be in a successful place is there's going to be a whole bunch of different people there, a whole bunch of different things that you can learn. But the important thing is to meet those people and to learn those things, you have to be there, right? So that's what he taught me. 50% is just being there.
For sure.
So the belief in self, the
Mhm.
belief in self is the most challenging part, if you ask me.
That's beautiful, man. That's actually amazing, amazing advice. And it kind of ties into my last question. What type of more advice do you have for any, future sports broadcasters or content creators like myself trying to get into this industry?
Number one thing, don't wait for anybody to hire you.
Hmm.
There's only going to be a certain amount of jobs that can be filled.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
You don't have your entire life to wait for
Exactly.
a position. Create your own content.
Hmm.
You have the resources, you have the reach. You create a good show and you promote like hell.
Hmm.
You put it on Twitter or X, you put it on Instagram, you put it on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever you have to do. You create something, you put it out there, put it on YouTube, you cut clips up so people can see it, and you make sure people know who you are.
That's great. That's great advice. That's something I should do more of, and I'm lacking in, but I'll do more of it. But thank you so much for the advice, and thank you so much for coming on, Michael. I really
No
appreciate your
problem,
time.
man. Appreciate it
Michael
anytime.
Roach. Michael Roach, everyone, you can follow him on his Instagram and Twitter and his LinkedIn. I'll put all the social handles for himself and the link in the description below. As always, thank you all for watching and have a great day. Thank you so much for coming on, Michael.
No problem, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, bro.